Yo, what on boys and girls, it's Raver out here, and today I'm coming at ya with a deep, emotional storytime video that has not only affected my child life and my teenage life, but also my current life and most importantly, my future life. As you can tell by the thumbnail image and the title of this video, the focus of the story is my dad, but I want to give y'all the big story to not only help me express my feelings on the subject, but also to help others who have experienced similar situations. I've purposely included minimal editing in this video to draw attention to the story. I feel like it's more important to listen to this video rather than to watch it, so I'm doing this video on a very serious note. Also, I do apologise if at times in this video that I do get a little bit vague. It's just that I don't want to expose every little thing, but I do want to give enough details to tell the story and to help others. With all that said, now let's just get on with the story. So basically, all my life, my dad had always had this personal challenge in his lifestyle to face. I'm not really entirely sure what started the whole thing off, but even as a 4-year-old, I will always remember him coming home from work and living his life in this particular way. And it would not only cause problems for himself, but for his friends and family and pretty much everyone around him. And in a nutshell, it just got progressively worse over the years, and when he lost his job in 2013, that basically gave him all the time in the world to continue living his lifestyle in this way with barely any rest. And believe me, we had so many arguments and family feuds. I could only do or say certain things in his company, and it really limited what I was allowed to do. So as you can tell, life wasn't really fun for me, especially as a teenager, because that was when it got worse. His problem and lack of willingness to help himself were ultimately what led us to move out of the old house and to go our separate ways into the flat that we're currently living in September 2014. I may have partially been able to get away from all this stuff in the flat from 2014 onwards, but the arguments would still happen. The only difference would be they would occur on the phone and not in person. From September 2014 onwards, I only saw my dad when he chose to see us, which was never on any specific schedule, it was just whenever he wanted to. But when I did see him, however, life just got more fun. Like, he seemed more of a family man, and he took us to restaurants, to Thorpe Park, to Brighton. He went all sorts of places with us. The most recent of those days was on the 2nd of November 2015 when we went to Chessington World of Adventures, the Halloween special, even though it was a little bit late. But little did I know then that that was the last time that I ever saw him properly. The last time I had any kind of contact with him at all was on the 11th of November, and that was by text. But my mum did speak to him on the 18th of November. But he was, as usual, complaining of illness. So we just didn't really think anything of it because this wasn't new to us. So we just shrugged it off our shoulders and moved on. Not that we knew then, but that was the last ever form of contact that my dad ever had with any of us or anyone in his friends or family ever. The next day, the 19th of November, I uploaded a video called My New Camera, which is still available to watch on my channel. And basically, on my channel, I usually film on Mondays and edit on Wednesdays. So on Monday the 23rd of November, I filmed a video that would have gone up on Thursday the 26th, but the contents of which have been deleted forever. But then, it was just going to be a normal week as far as I was concerned. After I finished filming, I had my dinner and I went out to the Bridge, which is Croydon's only LGBT youth group. And that starts at 8 and finishes at 9:30, and at 9:30 I left the group as I would always do, but my mum was waiting outside with what I assumed then was a minicab. She just told me to get in and the driver would take us home. So I just thought, oh, well that's alright then, Mum just must have just got a puncture or something. That was not the case, believe me. So basically, when we got home, we saw a police car waiting outside our flat door. At this point, I thought that one of us would have been under arrest. So I get in the front door and I see my nan and my granddad there with a police officer. My nan and granddad would never turn up at 9:30 at night without there being some kind of issue. Bearing it in mind that everyone in this room, apart from me and Jack, knew what news was about to get heard. So Mum basically pulled Jack off the computer and sat us both down on the sofa to tell us the news. The first thing that she said to me was, "It's your dad." Jack asked if he had got arrested, but Nan said that it was a lot worse than that. So afterwards, my mum said that he had died. And that was it. Around 9:45 on Monday the 23rd of November 2015, I heard the one thing that I had never prepared for or that I had never guessed. I even asked Mum in the car why we were driven home in this way, but she said that she would tell me when we got in. So I made up a few scenarios as to why we could have been driven home in this way, but none of them involved my dad in any way. I was also informed that the minicab was actually an unmarked police car. But that entire evening I just could not stop shaking and I would drop everything that was in my hand. And I was meant to go in the studio on that Tuesday to record some vocals for a song that I had written. But I just put that on hold for a day and just took the day off just so that I could gather my thoughts and spend time with the family. These next 2 weeks were the 2 busiest weeks ever. All of my dad's old mates and relatives had to be informed of the news, but I didn't do any of that. Instead, I was working on music in the studio, prepare for a Christmas gig that I was gonna take part in, which my dad actually said that he would watch, and take part in family meetings to discuss funeral plans, what to do after the funeral, etc, this sort of thing. I literally had no time for Raver because my personal life was just so busy. At the beginning of December, I did actually have ideas for a weekly Vlogmas type thing, and I did actually film the first video in that Vlogmas period, but you could tell that I was not looking happy or festive at all, and no amount of editing could change that. So I ended up ditching not only that video, not only the Vlogmas idea, but Raver in general for that month. And to be honest, in that time I didn't have a lot of time to edit that video anyway, so chances are it would have been late regardless, but at least I tried. But if there were 2 days before the funeral that really made me think, those days were the 9th and the 12th of December. See, because the death was so sudden, I hadn't planned to say any goodbyes to him or to gain any kind of closure. So after his body was moved from the hospital to the funeral place, me and a few close relatives took those 2 days to go and see him. Trust me, witnessing the body of your own dad lying dead in a coffin is the weirdest thing ever. And even when I saw him at Chesington, I thought that he was in good spirits. Obviously I could tell that he wasn't 100%, but he was still lively, and I would never have thought that just a month later I would have seen him in this way, you know what I mean? And it also made me think about why he chose to put himself there, because it was his lifestyle that got him there. So why in the world would he have chosen this? But I was just sitting there talking to him about the future and family plans and this sort of thing. Obviously I knew that he wasn't listening, but I was just sitting there talking to him anyway, and we played his favourite Christmas song there, The Fairy Tale of New York by the Pogues, and I was basically saying my final goodbyes in these 2 days, and I just never thought that it would turn out like this, but that's just how life goes. I even had to go twice because once wasn't enough. Obviously I didn't want to see him in this way, but I wanted to gain as much closure as I could in the short space of time that I had to do so. The funeral was held on Monday the 14th of December, and with the combined family efforts, I think we made the best service that he would have ever wanted. I think even if he'd have requested a better service, I don't think he'd have got one. He loved all the music that was played. I and a few others gave speeches, and the wake was held at his favourite pub. So obviously it was a very, very sad day, but we made it the best that we could. I also got to see and talk to various different distant family members that I hadn't spoken to in years. So in that sense, it was a good catch up for me, but I just wished that the reason for the catch up would have been a little bit happier. But with everything that had gone on, it's safe to say that last Christmas was definitely the least festive Christmas in the world. Especially for me, because I always spent Christmas with my dad every year. Even in 2014, he came round our flat for the day. However, it was a nice period of rest for me and the family, considering how busy and how stressed we'd been in the weeks prior. The new year started off with a slightly more positive turn. We had a party around ours on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, so we did forget a bit about what had happened before, at least for New Year's Day anyway. I started to think less of the reality and more on the future during this period as well, given that the new year is about a new person. And I started up Raver again in the first week of January with a video called New Year's Resolutions, which is again still available on my channel to watch. I also used Alan's awesome Christmas present in 360 Studios, where I recorded 2 of my songs professionally, which were The Life We Are Living and Correct. Both of those songs are still available to watch, and the vlog of the studio is also there as well. However, I do wish that my dad had heard the song Correct, because I do believe that it would have been a song that he would have agreed with. In the middle of January, we got a call from the funeral place to say that his ashes had been transferred and that they were ready for anyone in the family to pick up and collect at any time. They held on to them for about 3 weeks, and then we collected them, and then we held on to them for about 1 week. On the 13th of February, we took his ashes down to Brighton Beach, and it was there that we gave him his last ever send-off, because that was one of his favourite all-time places to go on days out. Now, originally, I didn't know how we were going to do this. I envisioned an image of us scattering his ashes over the sand and the stone so that it'd form a grey pebble area. Instead, we took him over the edge of the pier and we tipped his ashes into the sea so that he could swim somewhere warmer. We did take our time with it, and we did ask everyone there if they'd like to keep a small amount for themselves before we did it though, so at least it was fair. So apart from the small amounts that the family kept, that was his last ever send-off in one of his favourite places. Personally, I believe that it was a great idea to do it in that way. I really do think that he'd have liked that. The next few weeks, we didn't really think anything of the last few months. My older half-brother Dan kept my dad's car so that he could carry it down a generation, and everything was just going well. At the end of March, we did receive the coroner's report stating his official cause of death, which was what we thought it was gonna be anyway. We all guessed that it'd be what it actually was, but we just wanted to have it confirmed on pen and paper. With this knowledge, there was only one more thing that we needed to do, which was to officially register him as dead at the town hall, which we did at the beginning of April. Now, all our work was officially done, and there was nothing more that we had to do. So all we really need to do now is basically reflect on the past and how we can change the future in a positive way so that this sort of thing doesn't happen again, which basically brings us to the present day. So that's it for the whole story. Now for the advice side of it. To be honest, I don't really have much advice to give apart from talk to other people. Suffering in silence, believe me, is the worst thing that you can do. Use other people to your advantage. whether it be a trusted friend, a relative or a therapist or a counsellor or anyone that you believe you can trust. I would also suggest talking to the person that is giving you problems if someone is giving you problems. However, I would always wait until a day that they're happy enough to talk. Find a day that they're willing enough to talk, then do it. And when you do talk to them, don't get angry with them. That is another red flag, because chances are, if it is a lifestyle thing, their problem can't be helped. So do not get mad at them. I never got angry with my dad, but that was because I knew that he lived his life in the way that he wanted to. And finally, if you are currently dealing with the loss of a loved one, focus on the good memories, look towards the future, and don't dwell on the negative aspects of the past, because if you let them, they can have a negative effect on you, your health and your well-being. I am going to include a call to action in this video, but I'm going to do it in a slightly different way to what I would usually do it. As always, my links are on my face and my t-shirt, but I'm going to say something slightly different now. If you have experienced any of these situations that I've discussed in this video, or if you can relate to this video in any way, shape or form, no matter how obvious or obscure, make sure to contact me in any way, shape or form. That can be via a like, a subscribe, a comment, or a message on my channel, or a message on my social media sites, a tweet or an email, anything. My links will always be in the description below, so you can contact me in any way you like. It's these kinds of times when people need other people. And trust me, I know about that. So if you need to talk to somebody, you can always talk to me. I can be one of your go-to people who can chat, advise, help, or anything in between. I know that I'm not a trained counsellor, but I can do my very best to help anyone who needs it. Just tell me what you need and I can do my best to provide that. I really do hope that you have found my story helpful or informative or just useful in some way, whatever it is. Even though my story is very depressing, of course. I will be back next week with hopefully a slightly more upbeat and happy themed video, and that leaves me with nothing else to say apart from rest in peace, Dad.